Good morning and welcome to SimWorld. Today it is August 18th. I am Marsh, little solo edition to kick off the week. We've got, as we did 1 week ago now, we had the official release of the SimWorld U schedule. So wanted to highlight some games, not necessarily matchups, but some holidays that are going to be rather notable. So took a look at Black Friday, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day, and then MLK Day to just get a look of what's going on right now in college basketball. Now, I'll say this: I think it's a shout out to the SimWorld U League as a whole. Right, no Thursday or Thanksgiving Thursday, no Christmas Day games. They kind of cede that viewing opportunity to the SWBA, but that does not mean that we don't have some big matchups. So let's start with Black Friday. And there's two big games that I think are going to be interesting. Miami at Michigan State and Memphis at Oklahoma. Now, Miami-Michigan State currently is number 20 versus unranked Michigan State. I think this one has a lot of potential to be one of the bigger games if Michigan State has a really good start to the season and if Miami is able to live up to some of their preseason expectations. So far, they have not really had too much of, the big reason for optimism around Miami right now is your new head coach and Sean Miller. You bring back some talent in Dominic Bianco, but you've lost Jermaine McLemore. So I think it's a big season for the Hurricanes. They are, like I said, kind of just riding the coattails of a pretty good close to last season. And everything that they were able to do, have a little bit of advancement in hoopsteria. But I think that's a team that's going to be well regarded and already has been pretty well regarded in college basketball. But I think Michigan State has the chance to kind of join them, and that's if Shea King is able to have a really good season. A lot of this is going to ride on what Shea King performs like this season, as it's a big prove-it year. But the Sparties, they've got a really good chance, I think, at making a deep run, and so I think it's a big moment for them to see can they live up to that billing, and that's going to be a matchup where that test comes around. Now, I wouldn't call this an early season test, but by then we'll probably have a decent idea of how good Michigan State is. And then the second one, Memphis at Oklahoma. I think Memphis is going to be really good because they have Darius Outlaw. And I think Oklahoma could be really good because they've got Suno Chapa. Now, much like, this is currently a ranked matchup, I think that between these two, I think there's a real chance that Oklahoma might enter this unranked between the two teams, in that I think they're the team that maybe has the most susceptibility considering where they're at right now. We could see a great start and we could see a great season from Suno Chapa that kind of takes the Sooners into a position where they could be more dangerous. I think they've got a higher, obviously, starting point than Michigan State, but a big matchup for Oklahoma come late Thanksgiving time, for late November, where they're going to have to be trying to figure out, where do they stand in the Big 12 and Oklahoma. And then Memphis, Darius Outlaw, right? The really good starting, point for them. I think both Darius Outlaw and Suno Chapa are lottery picks. Talked about Suno Chapa last week with Ron Yell about could this group be could he be a lottery pick? And I think he's a guy that could jump into the top 10. I think that this could be looking at an early season matchup between two guys that not only could go in the lottery, but maybe make a name for themselves in SWBA. Let's go to Christmas Eve. There's three games that I'm really excited and interested in. Duke at Georgia Tech is the first one. Why? Well, I think there's a lot of question marks around both programs, right? Duke, they lose Cooper Flagg. I still believe that with their two-man front court of Ivanov and Ilgauskas, I think that's going to be really tough to stop. And then Georgia Tech, where's Georgia Tech going to be at come Christmas, right? 2 months of regular season basketball. Where are they going to be at considering they had one of the best seasons in program history last year? They lose Donta Walker, and now they try to figure out, picking up the pieces in the aftermath. I don't know that Georgia Tech's going to be a great basketball team, but I think it's going to be interesting to see where are they at come Christmas Eve. The second one, I've got Cal and Oregon. Two really good basketball teams from a season ago, contenders, right, in the Pac-12. Timothy Brown and Jason Tata, I think we're looking at two guys. Can we figure out? I think those are guys that should be well regarded around college basketball. How high do they go, I think is the next question. Are they two guys that could be lottery picks, be first-round picks, or are we going to be stuck wondering about where this group goes in the future? I think it's going to be an entertaining matchup to watch that, and really Oregon. I think Oregon has a chance to drive up themselves, right? A team that kind of hung around for a very long time last season, who was. I wouldn't say that they weren't contenders, but they kind of did it in a unique way without having this elite piece at the forefront of their organization. They didn't have a guy that was traditionally well known. Where do they sit in the hierarchy of the Pac-12 by the time that we get there? And then I think this is a big prove-it year for Jason Tada. After a really nice season a year ago for his junior year, can he meet the expectations that are going to be around him? And then the third one is Davidson at Houston. So we're obviously into conference play by Christmas. Davidson has a whole lot of hype around them and Benari James. Houston continues to be a team that I've talked endlessly about, just the fascination of will they ever put it together. I personally think this is a year that they can. They're bringing back so many rotation pieces. It's a big year for Freddie Stonewall. It's a big year for Kola Abdul-Rauf. It's a big year for Aji Fejbenle, three guys who I think could be first-round picks next season. Where do they look like come Christmas time? And then has Benari James reestablished himself with Davidson, right? He's kind of, Barkley James is maybe the more well-regarded brother right now, after it was most certainly Benari James to start the careers, and now Benari James is just not played as well. He did not have a great shooting season as a freshman. What does he look like in his sophomore year? And I think those are two teams, Davidson and Houston, who are going to be very real contenders in the American to try to offset or knock off what I think is currently a three-team group. And I mentioned Houston as a team that I like to win the conference, but you've got Memphis, you've got Jackson State, and you've got SMU. Davidson and Houston are trying to jump into that fray. I like Houston to do that, but I think that's a really good matchup. Let's go to New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We're going to do them both. South Carolina at Mississippi State. It's going to be a big matchup in the SEC. Where's South Carolina sitting at? Where's Mississippi State sitting after a season where they had a really great campaign a year ago? South Carolina in and out of the top 25. They've got this rebuilt roster. I think seeing where they're at come New Year's is going to be a big moment for them. A lot of questions for both squads. I've said South Carolina was one of the teams I was most curious about. Mississippi State's not far from being in that group. I think they've been a team that's got a really good roster in the SEC. You bring back a couple big names, right, in Darwin Cohen, who had a good season, Terrell Pearson, who had a good season last year, and then you add a big group of freshmen, but two freshmen that I'm very interested in, Jackson Sutton and Juan Vazale. Juan Vazale's talked openly about this Mississippi State squad. He had the feature story not too long ago, so it's a really good basketball team right now for Mississippi State. I think it could be two groups that we start looking at, Mississippi State, South Carolina. This could be SEC standings, top of the SEC standings battle on New Year's. Next matchup I've got on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Texas and Texas Tech. Same thing. You've got big name in Texas, obviously. Anytime Arthur Lattimore is on the floor, I think that's going to be a group that people pay attention to. But Texas Tech, three big freshmen join the group: DJ Amer, Jordan Belmont, Cyrus Jackson. You bring back some good rotation pieces. You bring back Tyrell Thompson, who's trying to be a first-round pick himself. I think he profiles as a really nice... he's listed as a forward. I think he's a center at the next level with his frame and his abilities. Where's Texas Tech at? They're trying to fight their way up in what figures to be a really entertaining Big 12. The Big 12 is just going to be appointment television with Kansas, Texas. Texas Tech was a team that I had as my number 3 team. So I think you're looking at a couple matchups. Kansas State could be a player in that. Oklahoma could be a player in that. So really, really entertaining conference. And Texas Tech rivalry on New Year's. I think their New Year's Eve should be a really good one. And then San Diego State and UNLV. Why does this one interest me? Because those two teams are going to be playing back-to-back New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. First one's in Las Vegas. Second one's in San Diego. That's going to be really interesting in the Mountain West. Those are the two teams that met in the conference championship game a year ago. And we're going to get this finals type of series that we get to enjoy over the New Year's holiday. I think that's going to be really exciting. And then last holiday, MLK Day, North Carolina at Florida State. Florida State is trying to fight their way back into the ACC picture. They had a good year a season ago, 7-7. They kind of fell apart towards the end of the season. They just couldn't really put things together. 13-18 overall. Garrett Hart, though, well regarded by a lot of folks. Could he be a lottery pick? By January, we're gonna have a pretty good idea of if this guy is a lottery pick. And then you're going up against a team that's really trying to figure out their season themselves. UNC, you've got Marco Jacobs still on the roster, or not still, but new to the roster. I think this could be Marco Jacobs has kind of been under the radar for a lot of folks. Hasn't really been spoken about too much. I still think that Marco Jacobs is going to be a difference maker at the next level. 6'6" guard, can score at will, and then you've got 3 guys returning that averaged 10 or more points. You got 5 guys returning that averaged 7 or more points. So it's a really good North Carolina group. And the more that I do some research and prep for the season to come, I really wonder. I think North Carolina could be a very real player in the ACC. I've certainly laid the claim of Duke. I made this statement about Syracuse. I think Louisville is still going to be really good, but North Carolina, they were 18-10 at one point towards the end of the season, and then 8-3 overall in conference play. They lost 3 in a row because they just couldn't beat good teams in a similar way that Virginia Tech couldn't until they started to put it together real late. I think North Carolina's got a real chance in what figures to be a wide-open ACC. By mid-January, we're going to get an idea. Are North Carolina and Florida State, are they contenders in the ACC, or are they just kind of hanging out in the middle like they did to close out a year ago? All right, that's our show. We're coming back tomorrow morning here on Tuesday, so appreciate you joining us here on SimWorld today on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.